Hey, I want to shout out our guys at Recoup Wellness, Cody and Dr. Austin, who are working on some great things in that biohacking community. They bring in new methods of performance recovery involving hyperbaric oxygen therapy, PEMF, and red light therapy. Be sure to stop by GLS and check out our hyperbaric and all of our recovery modalities. And we appreciate you, Recoup.
All right, this is Gary Scheffler with Recoded the podcast, Recoded with Gary Scheffler, and today sitting with me again, I got my guy Donald Clay, and he's kind of a co-host today slash a guest because we're gonna get into some recruiting stuff, and he is the father of Donald Clay, who is a safety currently at SMU, who is right now in the transfer portal, so they reopen their recruiting process. So we're going to talk a little bit about recruiting. And that brings me to my guest for today, Mr. Jimmy Smith, the mullet toss champion. I didn't know that until just now. You know, you find things out about people. But Jimmy's he's known for being connected to a few different entities. One is Battle. He's the director of brand development for Battle, which is all your gear and stuff like that. So if you haven't heard of Battle, check him out. He's going to give us 100% off coupon code today for me to get anything I want. Also, he is a publisher for Rivals, LSU, and Arkansas universities. And he is the founder of the Louisiana Bootleggers, who is probably one of the most infamous 7-on-7 teams that have ever graced the planet. They've had players, Odell, Jamar Chase, like, it's just a long line who actually Donald had actually paid for them too. So I welcome, guys.
Appreciate you having me, bud.
Yeah, man. So you know, I guess one of the biggest things I try to do with the show is I try to bring people on to try to give some kind of information. We want every show to be quality on how it could help a student athlete or something like that. And we've had everything from the spiritual side of life, God talks, you know, all the way to just training and stuff like that. So, you know, kind of introduce yourself a little bit and how you got into everything that you're doing right now and kind of take us down that journey a little bit.
Yeah, like most of us, you know, as a young adult, didn't know what my path would be in life. And then I was running a shoe store in Jacksonville, Florida, and a couple Jaguars players came in, and we just started talking ball. And at the end, guy Kyle Brady, a former tight end for the Jaguars, pulled me aside and said, "Man, your football knowledge is really high level. You know, do you do anything with sports?" And I told him I should, but I don't. And he just said, "You should look into it. How old are you?" And he asked me those questions. And after he left, I just started thinking, like, what am I doing in life? I'm selling shoes, love sports. Is this what I want to be? And he kind of just, yeah, exactly, yeah. Right. I'm putting on shoes. I was working at a Journeys.
Oh,
right. Yeah. Wow. So I'm putting Chuck Taylors on.
Well, it's cool when you're
stuff.
Young, right? You get
right.
you know, everybody wearing
Dude,
Doc Martens.
I had 300 pair of shoes because, I mean, a third of my paycheck went to discounted shoes, you know? So, but I did know some people in radio. You know, I grew up, my uncle, my next door neighbor was Buddy Delaberto, old Saints broadcaster, right. And so I was always, you know, interested in being in that line of work. Mm-hmm. And so after he left, it marinated all night long. And the next morning, I started thinking, who do I know? How could I tap in? How could I get in? And I called a guy by the name of Max Empfinger, who's one of the early scouts, you know, before there was Rivals and so on. Max Empfinger had an all-American list and rankings for USA
He was dealing with high school athletes?
Yeah, high school athletes. He was a former Cowboys scout. So he was rather established and experienced. So I reached out. His son and I went to high school together and just said, "Hey, man, I'll work for you. I don't care what it is. I just want to get in the business. I'll work for free." And then that was the beginning. And then from there, I got hired by a scouting service and started building databases and selling those databases to colleges and then writing player evaluations and then doing radio shows for draft day. And it just kind of evolved in time, you know. And then the 7-on-7 idea came up, and I was the first to build a team with the Louisiana Bootleggers and just been kind of plugging away for a while. Went into writing and media 12 years ago. Been doing that for the last 12 years, worked for NOLA.com for a while and now Rivals, and just trying to have my hands in a little bit of everything. You know, it's a rewarding field that I'm in, dealing with young athletes. And I know you can speak to this as well. Mm-hmm. When you take a kid and you can do your part to help elevate them, whether it be through health or whether it be through recognition, things I do, when you see them succeed and you see it play out in front of you, it's really rewarding.
Yeah.
You know, so I've been really lucky and blessed, and I'm honestly, I'd probably be a traveling regional sales manager right now for a shoe store if it wasn't for that one interaction with a couple Jaguars players. And it's just kind of funny how things like that in life, you know, can alter your path. Just that quick conversation just completely altered my path and set me on a new one, and I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah. One of the things that you said just now, whenever you was mentioning all of that stuff, is when you called that resource that you had, you didn't call in and say, "Hey man, how much can you pay me to do this?" You said,
Right.
"Man, let me come work for you." And I think a lot of our kids miss the boat. Not just kids, like adults too. Like they miss the part of, man, let me just come in there and be a part. You know, it was like when Donald came here, it was like, man, fuck, I don't care about the money. Like, get me in there. Let me be around the kids, and whatever you could do for me is a blessing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he walked away from a job making $7,000 a month, $8,000 a month to come here to make $1,000 a month at first.
Right.
And then, you know, as you prove yourself in the industry that you're trying to get in, man, money's a side effect of success, right? So you get what you need, and if you have faith, he'll provide.
Right.
You know, so, you know, here we sit today.
Right. And that was kind of my thought. Let me in, I'll make it work.
Yeah.
You know, I started as that shoe salesman as a part-time job. A year later, I had my own store, you know, and I just knew, and I had experience, you know, stepping into things that were new to me and making it work and elevating myself. So I was confident, if somebody opens this door for me, I'm going to make something positive happen.
Yeah. Yeah. The process, we talk about that all the time. The process is the same, whether you're a shoe salesman trying to get to the top, whether you're a writer trying to get to the top, the trainer trying to get to the top. I mean, listen, you came in today. I have a 3-day stretch every week where I come in at 7 in the morning, I leave at 9 at night. I don't leave. Like, we haven't eaten yet.
Right.
And it's you know.
Yeah, it be like that, though. It be like that.
But it's like you I don't even think about it. You know what I'm saying? Because I know what I want. I know what my goals are. And that's, you know, another thing that you mentioned too is to do your part, to do your little piece or whatever. And I think a lot of people, and I know you faced it before, because we've had our own disagreements and stuff. And you know, in this industry, it's a competitive environment all the time. But a lot of times what I think people miss is that's all you're trying to do is that part. I'm trying to keep them safe. You know, Duck may be a mentor. That, you know, the coach is going to be the coach. This shit can't be done by one person.
Right.
It takes a village, right?
Yeah.
It takes a village.
It really does. And I think, you know, I call it the infrastructure of athlete development. You're a big piece of it. You're a big piece of it. I think we all contribute to that infrastructure. And, yeah, it does definitely take a village. And if anybody tells you they could do it all by themselves, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
That's a red flag. It takes a lot of hands on deck, regardless what it is we do. You know, even when I write a story about a kid trying to elevate them, I make sure other media members get that story so they familiarize themselves with that athlete. And then hopefully that'll lead to them writing more stories about the kid and so on. So, yeah, it's definitely a collective. It's a village of sorts. And, you know, and I'm glad we worked through our struggles.
Yeah. We had to, because it's for the kids. It's not for us.
You know, and I think what got us here was simply we knew why we were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
We might have different ways of going about it and handling ourselves and the way we approach situations. But at the end of the day, we're two of the few that are doing it for the right reasons in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so we always felt compelled, well, we got to figure this out because they need us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when we can work together, it makes both of us stronger.
I feel like one of the biggest struggles that you have, it's not really you, but it's the situation that you're in is you can only do so much. You only have so much time in the day. You can only write so much about a certain kid. You could only say so much about this kid. You have you've been around the bootleg organization. You founded that. You got rivals in LSU, which is going to take a certain kid that's going to be written about with LSU or like the kid that's the backup safety at Southern is not going to be a kid that's recruited by LSU, right?
Right.
So that kid's probably not going to get an article written or something like that. So then it's like, well, I'm slept on and he don't like me and blah. And it's like, it's not that. It's like, it may not fit. Now there's somebody that is writing about those kids. There's somebody that, you know, and I think where you've got a bad rap sometimes was in that situation is you can't write about everybody. It's impossible. It's impossible to pull that off. You would probably love to, you know, if you had just unlimited hours in a day. And Donald was a kid that, you know, he was we talk about this all the time. Athletically, he didn't look like some of the other kids that he was in that recruiting process with. Donald's body turned into a man in college.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We knew that early. We used to talk about that
we
early.
talked
Like he's
about
still a baby. Doesn't have arm hair. You know, all these
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yep.
and it's interesting how some kids develop differently. You know, and I think being in front of these kids and seeing that process from 14 to 24 and beyond, you know, you start to get a feel through body types, through developments, and you're able to make some of those projections. You know, and the first, I'm pretty sure I was the first one to write about your boy. Huh?
Definitely was.
Yeah, I think he was an 8th grader and
It
going
was.
into ninth grade.
Seventh grader going into 8th grade.
Yeah, at a Tulane camp.
Yep.
You know, and he made
That's
the
when
top
he was.
performers list of high school athletes. You know, and that was based off of the projection. Well, he's this good now, right?
Right.
And he's a little baby. Even standing next to kids in his class, you could tell he still had the baby face. He was,
Yeah.
you know, a little later in his development, and so, yeah, you know, and it is, it's rewarding for me to write about Donald than it is more to write about Jamar Chase. You know, and so I've been having to try to find my stride now that I'm strictly writing about LSU and Arkansas prospects. That might be 15, 20 kids a year in the state of Louisiana.
Right.
Realistically.
Yeah,
Right.
where I used to be able to write about 75, 100.
Yeah.
Right, a kid going to Louisiana College or Nichols. But I can't really do that anymore. And the kids don't really understand that, and parents don't understand that. So I often get, you know, some blame and some.
And if Jimmy
The
writes an
slack
article
for it,
about
right?
you,
Yeah.
it's almost like
gold.
comes with offers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
comes with
gold.
offers
It's
almost.
gold. It's gold to the kids.
Yeah.
It's gold to the kids.
and I wish I could do that for everyone. I just can't.
Yeah.
You know, and so, and that's where I feel like I owe it to them, though, to try to make up for it on the back end, to make those extra calls and so on. And I've always taken a little different approach. When I do play that backdoor behind the scenes role, I don't middleman with the kids. They don't know who I call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, Duck might know a couple schools I've spoken to on his son's behalf over the years, but I mean, he never even really asked me, and I damn sure didn't open up about it. That's just, I didn't want to place myself as being that guy. Don't tag me on Twitter. I don't
Right.
need all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And by doing it right and being so repetitive and rather good at it, I will admit, I think I'm fairly good at that aspect of things. I get all the publicity I need. Most of the athletes I know and that I help were introduced to me from someone that's already seen me be successful. And I think you could probably say the same with your line of work.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, at this point, people are handing people
Word of
to
mouth
you.
is the greatest marketing tool ever. You'll never
Absolutely.
beat it.
Yeah,
It's-
it'll
people
beat
trust people. Yeah.
any billboard you could buy won't do the same
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. In Donald, you had two sons basically go through the process that both was unique situations. You had Donald, who we just talked about the athleticism side of it, and then Marquise was a systematic kid in a lot of senses. Like he's a little scat back. He's not going to be the LSU running back.
Right.
Maybe as fast as them.
Yeah, he's not 6 foot plus, right? And
Yeah.
it's a certain standard that these guys look for, and that's understood.
Yeah.
And when you don't meet that standard, right, but you compete. You know, like you said, you go for yours. You go for what's for you in that particular spot or whatever God has called for you, right? That's yours.
Right.
Like you can't look in front of what He has for you. So.
And saying that now, as opposed to actually being in the fire, like
It's
that's what
different.
parents.
It's way different.
totally different. Man.
It's way different.
That's what
totally
parents need to
different.
hear though,
Hey.
because they
Totally
need to hear
different.
like man,
Yeah,
listen,
it's different.
it's like you have this kid you're going home with who's heartbroken in a sense. Like,
and
man,
you're that parent, you know, that just want to see them be successful. You want to see them win. You want to see them have their just due. At the same time, you know, we have to understand as we get older, right, with maturity, it becomes a setup where it's like, okay, what God has for them, like you can never jump in. Yeah, you can't get in front of that. But of course, it was many days where we would go home and I'm understanding the work, right? I see the work ethic they putting in. I know the things that they would walk away from to be able to go make sure they trained or did what they had to do. And then they felt like, well, I'm not getting my just due. So of course, as a parent, you get tied into that. You get sucked into that as well.
Part of feeling protected.
Yeah.
Right.
You're the protector, right? So, and it's different. It's different. Cause now that I'm on the outside looking in, like, and I get those phone calls, man, bro, what you think about this? Man, look, listen, in due time, what's for them is going to be for them, right? They're not being slighted. They're not being overlooked. They're being looked at for what they're supposed to be, right? And that's all. And
I think a lot of times it's a distraction. You lose focus. They lose focus. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, I still got to check all these boxes every day. And if I take that emotional part of not getting that reward that I feel like I should get, because to me, it's almost like the kid that don't get an offer he may stay there and work. I guess it could work both ways. Or he could say, man, I'm not getting offered, I quit. And or he could sit there and go, the guy that's getting 30 offers is just looking for a next offer and he forgets to go to the gym. He don't forget, but he just is like gets caught up in that race and they lose their way like that.
He get comfortable for it. And that was the best thing that I had ever saw, being stated when they were coming up in that era, right? When everybody was like, blessed to receive my first offer, my second offer, my third offer. And you came on there and was like, man, y'all got to stop doing that, right? Yeah. You just be blessed to receive an offer, right? Don't be putting no numbers on it, right? Because then, you have an obligation as well to continue to show these youngers that if they continue to work, right, then your offers will come as well. But when you go to put numbers on it, then it becomes this look like,
well, it becomes a material item.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does exactly. Yeah. And then you've got to think of how that will look to the coach that just offered you.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I'm just
you wasn't worried about my offer.
Yeah,
you just
wanted the number.
Yeah,
the number count. Yeah, the body count. Right.
And then you flip the other side of, because we've had Dave on, Jaluke's supposed to come on the show and all, and those guys are like, man, we give an offer to a kid, and then it's like, all right, what's next? Like they not even, not even, they juggling the offers like y'all saying. They putting a count on them and stuff. How many can I get? And then where does that manifest later on in life?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Is as the terms the kids use, I hate to even say something, body count and stuff like that. What's next? How many girls can I be with? How many of this can I do? How many of that? And you lose the quality of life inside of what you actually trying to accomplish. Somebody felt good enough about the things that you've done and how good you are and how talented you are and the gift that God gave you to come in there and say, we're going to give you a free ride to our university. And you like, thank you. Great conversation. Blessed to receive number 2. Where's number 3?
Right. Right. I mean,
and Donald got 7 offers one day, 6 offers one day. Like, you don't even have time to process that. Like, then you got a kid out there that don't have none. And he's sitting there going,
and that's the look.
Holy shit, I just got an offer.
Yeah.
Right.
My dream. This kid might not have no parents. We don't know what his background is, where he's coming from, or anything like that. It's a nasty world.
And kids still do it. It was a trend that started, I don't know, I'd say 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and it just continues today. And I DM kids all the time. Quit putting numbers on it. It's just not a good look.
Yeah.
Because perception's everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so Joe Schmo, the general public, is looking at that like, oh, like you said, it's just a material item to the kid. You're putting out this thing, I'm blessed, this is a dream come true, so on and so on, and then you slap that number on it, and now it just looks like, oh, what are you, a salesman?
Yeah.
Like, are you trying to convince us that this was important to you? Because that number just totally discredits the whole
or
situation.
It makes the next school look like, okay, well, we're just a number, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
why even
do we want to be 22?
Those first 6 guys were just numbers, right? So do we want to be number 7?
Right.
Okay, we're going to buy into that. Well, no, because we're number 1, right? And that's in everyone's eyes. But these kids are placing numbers on it. Like,
I always said, like, little Gary's 5, but if he's in that situation, he starts. I don't know if I would post him. You need maybe when it comes, maybe when it comes time to it, but I would. But the way things are looking, he's not going to get an offer.
No.
No.
Well, again,
You're teaching
he
the
might be
math
a
then,
late-
right?
he
You doing
might-
good with math?
Now, Alex may be the first NFL female quarterback, but because she's a beast, but I don't know, but
But
you
he
know.
a late bloomer, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
you have
could be,
those.
could be.
You have
Could
those
have
late
those.
bloomers. By the time he turned 9, he looking like the Hulk, and everybody in the world want him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he's 5, Gary.
Yeah.
Don't give up yet.
Yeah.
Don't give up yet, dude.
He actually did get his first offer because when he was born and I had put the picture up, Dave called me. He's like, let me be the first
Let me
one.
be-
He got a Memphis offer.
Yeah, didn't
So,
you tweet that?
yeah.
Yeah, I remember you tweeting that. I think I might have even retweeted it.
He's
Probably
like a
put a number on
2037 or some shit.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you get your first, say my first offer, right? And if you hit a milestone, 25 maybe,
Yeah.
50, get that. You know, and what's interesting about the number count is every kid that has 25 offers probably really has 17,
Yeah.
18.
They
They
not
come
real.
and they disappear. You know, some of them are never committable,
Yeah.
right? And they're doing a favor
Half
for
the
somebody.
staff's changed.
Right. So you're making a count and you're accumulating these offers and putting a number on them that's not even really valid.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's no truth to that number.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, and I've been off of Twitter for about. I just started my Twitter back up yesterday, but it's crazy because you'll see when the staff changes, they'll go back and reoffer the ones that they want. So kids will post that too, like, "Hey
Yeah.
man, blessed to be reoffered."
Reoffer.
Yeah, like reoffered or whatever. So you get a kid that's been reoffered or whatever, and that should tell these kids that are freshmen, sophomores, and juniors possibly that your offer might not exist if a new staff comes in and they
100%.
change staffs like they change underwear now. If you don't win, if you got 2 seasons basically probably to get it done.
Yeah.
Especially in these mid-majors, because you got 2 seasons to get it done. If you do it,
Now,
the
now the
SEC
bigger
is
fish
coming.
right?
Yeah,
the
right.
bigger-
So
the bigger
you see
schools
the
are coming.
coaches changing left and right, which changes the recruiting process, and then you throw in the NILs and
That's
everything
really a
changes.
crazy game.
Well, it's
It's
changed
nuts.
everything.
That's crazy.
It's changed everything. It changed everything. It really did. You know, and back on your point, you don't even need a whole staff to leave. It could just be your area recruiter or position coach. And that could have been the guy standing on the table for you. Now that he's not there, you're a forgotten piece.
yeah.
Let me
Not
ask you.
even a conversation in the staff room. no
Yeah,
more.
your file's not even on record anymore, basically.
You said something just now about the position coach changing or the area recruiter.
Right.
I know, if I'm not mistaken, like Tulane a couple of years ago went to the position coach recruiting the position and not area coaches recruiting area. Is that happening in college football now? Because it was always area stuff.
So your position recruiters, it's quite different. So your area recruiters were the guys that were networked in that region, right? You wanted them out
Yeah,
there
you
on the
hired
ground.
Dave Johnson. He recruits the New Orleans area.
Recruits
Right.
New Orleans. He's probably related to somebody along the line. They're only 2 degrees of separation away from that family, so on and so on. But today's world, it's about player development. Who's the guy I'm going to be working with every day? That's going to make the decision on whether I play or not. Kids are becoming more educated on that. And then, it just creates a sense of comfort with the staff. And these coaches want to have a say. I'm a receivers coach. I want to have a say-so, and I want to play a major role in what receivers we get.
Right.
And so you've seen over time, the more the position coaches have tried to take that stance and assert themselves in the position specific recruiting. And I think it's beneficial to kids, honestly, right? Because you can be recruited by an area recruiter that you'll have minimal to no interaction with throughout a football week.
Right.
Be with the guy that's going to be in your room, teaching you, coaching you, disciplining you, being the shoulder to lean on when you need help. That's going to come from your position coach. So seeing that transition, I think it's really beneficial to the kids. And it's definitely, kind of changed the way some dynamics are handled within recruiting. Because back in the day, it was just Frank Wilson would dominate New Orleans, right? And so on and so on. And Frank Wilson still does a lot of the recruiting for the New Orleans area. He's heavily involved in all of it.
Right.
But
Dude, LSU hired him before McNeese knew.
yeah. So, but it's a lot of dynamics have changed recently in recruiting, and it's really kind of turned it upside down. It feels completely different today than it did just 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, you back in it.
Yeah.
from
Yes,
5
we
years
Yeah,
ago.
back you're in this thing called a
Yeah.
transfer portal
Yeah.
that didn't even exist 5 years ago.
And it's something totally different. Like you
Totally
said,
different.
You know?
And I consider myself an expert on the high school side of it. I'm still learning this transfer portal stuff.
Right.
You know, it's a totally different approach with the coaches. The things I used to be able to say and kind of push coaches to kind of nudge them along, it's different now with the transfer portal. It's two totally different conversations, even though you're talking about the same thing, getting a player in a program, but it's two totally different kind of conversations, you know?
I think it hurt the kid more than it helped him. And the reason why I say that is because now you got a kid that probably would have absolutely been a recruit that now he's on hold for a minute so we could see how these situations play out and then go back. So let's say that you kind of on it. Like right now, it's late. Like to be committing to a school right now or to be signing with a school. It used to be everything happened because the way I saw it or whatever is I would see it play out in here is you had an early signing period, which wasn't always like that, right? That
Right.
started
That's
a few
still
years
fairly
ago.
new.
That
Right.
Yeah,
started
it's still
in
kinda new, right.
2019, 2018.
Yeah,
Right,
something
so
like
you
that.
get early signing.
Yeah,
So like
right.
a lot of the dudes that are absolute studs that been courted by these schools for so long, they're gone, they're taken. Then you go into the late signing period where, okay, well, we thought we was getting this one, so we got to make sure from December to January that we lock this second choice
Down in
down
February,
to get
right,
him.
in February.
And now, then there would have been, okay, well, we didn't get these guys. Let's go ahead and offer this kid. He's still sitting out there and get him in. So you would see these kids signing like 3 or 4 days later or something like that because those now you got transfer portal. So at the mid mark, like you got an early signing period. So the top high school kids could potentially be gone. Then you got the transfer portal opens up because football ends January or whatever. And now these kids are jumping into the portal. So the guys that are sitting there that could have potentially been a LSU guy or something, he may fall down a little bit because the transfer portal might have picked up a kid that LSU's going to take instead of that guy.
And the trickle down effect's real when it comes to transfer portal, unlike economics, right? It doesn't trickle down very well
Right.
in our economy, but in the transfer portal and recruiting, it absolutely does. The guy that might have got that late offer from LSU that's now going to Tulane just took an offer from a kid that was going to go to Tulane that might now have to wait on McNeese, and then McNeese is saying, well, hell, we're in the portal waiting for that kid that's transferring from Tulane that can come in and play right away.
Yeah.
And so you have a kid that thought he would have a shot at a Tulane or a UL who's just hoping anybody gives him a shot and may have to walk on, you know? So it's definitely a trickle-down effect. Every school's grabbing the next man's scraps and trying to make do with it and then finding those diamonds in the rough and those gems along the way. And it's just totally there's a lot of kids, and I really saw it last year and even more this year, kids where I'd go late into a recruiting phase and cycle and feel like, okay, this kid's too good to be left on the table. I'm going to be able to find him a home. And I can't. And it's just like, whoa, like I can't believe this happened overnight.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll have a list of 40, 50 kids that I think could play on the college level that don't have an option available to them. And I used to be able to get down that list and almost take care of every one.
Right.
You know, now I'm just hoping to get halfway through.
Yeah.
And
And then the kids also have a decision to make too, right? Because like even in our situation, honestly, if Donald would have hit the portal early, right, he would probably know where he's going.
Right.
Or he would have been there already. But the fact that we was in our 4th year, right, and it was about the degree, right? Because that's what it's about at the end of the day, the degree. So okay, I'm gonna stay here and get my degree.
It was about the degree for y'all.
Yeah, well, definitely. It's about
it should be
It
for a
should
lot.
be
be
about
for
the degree for
everybody.
everybody, but
Right.
it ain't.
right?
Right.
It should be about the degree. So by him going for the degree, now it's like that third that's going into June, you know, and it's like, okay, well, we're in spring right now. And once they get in spring, right, then they get laser focused on what they have because now they want to see who's going to fit. You know, everybody is a good ball player till it's time to put those pads on, right? And who's going to fit, whether it be from a physical aspect, right, or from a mental standpoint, can they pick up the playbook or not, right? All of these things go into factor. And then now you just sitting there like, okay, well, good thing for us is, right, we waiting to get our degree. But once the degree is set, then it's like, okay, what's the next move? And the fear of the unknown, right? Like,
Right.
damn, what's going to happen after that? And, you know, again, that's where, you know, whatever the anointed steps are, that's what we're going to do. But it's a little rougher now.
You used to have it always was about the degree. It should have been,
Yeah.
and the
Well,
reason
it
why
always-
is because there wasn't
yeah.
a transfer portal.
Right.
Because it was grad transfer. You had to graduate.
transfer,
Yeah.
or sit out a complete year with
Yeah,
which nobody
which changes the
wanted to
game,
do.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So now with the transfer portal, I think it's really caused a lot of problems. Where at least before you would have graduated, it would have made them focus on school. They would have got that part. It puts out a better person in the sense of someone who typically probably finished. I couldn't. I spent 10 minutes at Delgado, but I lucked out. You know what I'm saying? God had a plan for me. So, but what I'm saying is most of the time, probably the guys that I graduated high school with that have degrees probably do better than the guys that don't. You know what I'm saying? Or they have a more opportunity presented to them. Whereas, like, if you was a grad transfer, at least now we got the degree. And the school more or less did their job where, like you said, sitting out's it's really not an option if you're a junior in college or something.
Yeah, and the coaches and the schools don't want to burn a scholarship on a guy that can't play either.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's changed those dynamics. You said something about it being the degree. If he was at nothing against, in North Texas, if he was at North Texas instead of SMU, who's a highly regarded academic institution, would he have hit the portal earlier? Was it the lure of the SMU degree and the significance of that specific degree?
Yeah, because that's why they chose the school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that played a huge role in your decision.
Yeah, because
Because he went to North Texas.
Yeah, well, he had some SEC schools as well, right?
Right.
But when we stepped back and we really looked at it, okay, it's really about the 40-year plan, not the 4-year plan, right? And SMU was kind of
Man, you were saying that line 6 years ago.
yeah,
40-year
And-
plan.
Yeah,
It's real,
That's
though.
what
It's
it
so
is.
real.
It's the 40-year plan. It's not the 4-year plan. And I mean, I understand. I guess it's the upbringing of some kids in some certain households, right? Like you said, we don't know everyone's situation. It might be a kid coming home every day to an empty house. He got to find his own food to eat, right? Or he got to cook for himself, or he got to go out there and make money to eat. And we don't know, And then in their mind, right? Everyone says this as well. All the kids, I got to make it because I got to take care of my mom. I got to buy my mom a house. I got to do this. I got to do that. So they're being already like, that seed is being planted, and some of them, that's all they're chasing is that ball, and
It's
It's
why I'd love for every
kid.
kid to come through here because they have us to talk to. You know what I'm saying? They have that to talk to where. I mean, you see it all the time. You've been around the industry long enough where people are attaching themselves to these kids and they just riding the kids' coat. I mean, coaches do it. Coaches do it.
And they're
Some of
giving
them are
advice
locked
about
up.
things they really don't know.
Right,
And then the kids
right.
walk into walls.
Yeah.
And then it's
And
like,
then
well,
the
damn, what
trainer's still
happened?
doing what he's doing, or the recruiter's still doing what whoever it is still doing what they doing, and then the kid's the one that
Exactly.
lost.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that was like a lot of like when we got back together, and then I amended the relationship I had with AB is because we have kids in our city that need us. You know, and it's
Together,
bigger than
more
I
than
mean,
us
dude, I go
separated.
home
Right.
every night to a comfortable house and a family, and my kids don't want for nothing. You know what I'm saying? And and it's like, man, I'm being selfish. Like I got to change the way that I'm doing things. And then what starts to happen is people start to reach out. And they like, man, I saw blah, 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 and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, and you never know what doing that might change somebody else's life or something. So it's another thing too is the what happens, I think, a lot of times with these kids with these offers is the head coach, right? It's almost like he's sitting at this desk. I'm the head coach and y'all my recruiters, and y'all go out and y'all talking to these kids and y'all recruiting and y'all doing this and that. And then I'm like, oh, you could get Donald Clay? Yeah, go get him. And then you come back with Donald Clay, but you came back with so-and-so before. And I'm like, well, tell Donald to hold on. Now, that dude got to go back to that parent. He got to go back to that kid. Meanwhile, you can't touch the coach. You can't get a conversation with the coach, but you talking to the recruiter. And I think that happens a lot of times where these coaches, recruiters, and it could happen in the writing game. It could happen in the training game. Because, listen, I got a situation right now where I've been trying to get a kid into something, and I'm not going to say what it is because it would give away all the people involved. But I can't get the kid like to where I'm trying to get him, but the person that is dealing with me directly, I've never asked them for anything before in my life. And they always said, man, anything you need, anything you need, anything you need. You know, man, I don't ask for much. And then I go and I ask him, and then he's like, well, it's this one and that one. And it's an organization. It's not a school or nothing. But the kids, I wouldn't speak on a kid. I'm not asking a favor. The kid's legit. Like, he could do it as well as anybody that, you know, is out there right now. He's just an underclassman. So they don't even want to look at him. But I think he snuck his way in anyway. So
it scares me when I see people who aren't very versed in the recruiting game getting behind a kid and trying to play that role. Because there's so many little mistakes you can make. And one of the things I learned early on is quit trying to force a kid on a school, right? Because ultimately, if they're not jumping on him, they get paid.
they don't want him. Yeah.
They get paid big bucks, right? And, you know, and then that kid goes and he doesn't play and he doesn't enjoy his time. And then he becomes frustrated, which is their worst enemy. Right? And so on and so on. And it's like, well, you know, if I would have talked to him about, hey, man, I know you've always dreamt of being at LSU, but you could have been a star at Tulane, you know, and so you sit back. And I had some of those experiences early in my career, and I felt like I played a role in his failure because I wanted to make him happy, you know, and probably at the same time say, look what I did, right?
Yeah.
As a young guy trying to make an imprint in the business. But
it's like a parent.
Yeah.
Like you're being a parent. Like you don't discipline your kid because it feels a certain way.
Right.
Then you
more
fail
worried
the kid, right?
Yeah, you want to be the friend instead of the dad sometimes, you know? So, yeah, it's a tricky process. And I tell people that want to help kids all the time, learn as much as you can before you're the one sticking your neck out for that kid, because you're going to end up setting him back more than you realize, maybe even more than you're helping, by making these little mistakes, giving bad advice here, saying the wrong thing here, you know, because these coaches are very skeptical when they call on kids, right? And they want all the little details. And if they see a little red flag, and it could be just from an outsider that's a third party that's playing a role, that could be the difference in them deciding to offer or waiting to learn more. Right? Like, who are these people involved? They don't even seem to know what the hell they're talking about. But yet here they are trying to make decisions on the kids' behalf. And so those schools will pull back. So we need more people helping. But those people really need to be verified, certified, validated. Like, know your shit before you go out here and you start trying to play this role, you know, as a scouting coordinator, director, whatever you want to call yourself in this kid's life. Like, you can do far more damage than good.
Yeah.
You know,
no doubt. And a lot of that stuff, you know, you'll get somebody guide a kid in a certain way based off of how something strokes their ego or their personality or something. And then emotionally, that dude's unstable and he's trying to give a kid advice on where his future's going to go.
See,
like, that could be a big problem.
See a lot of that. See a lot of that, you know, because you got to think the people that are just trying to attach themselves to a kid, that are trying to elevate on a kid's back, is probably mentally unstable to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so build your name, build your network, build your Rolodex, and then use that to elevate a kid instead of the other way around. And I think a lot of these guys say, well, I'm going to attach myself to this kid, and I'm going to be in this process with him, and it's going to elevate me along the way. But, I mean, I promise you, when you leave those offices, those coaches are laughing at you. They know you're in above your head. They know you're in a role you shouldn't be in, you know, and they see you as a liability. So when that kid goes to their school, they're going to try to put a wedge between you and that kid because they know you're liability.
Not good for them.
Listen, I've lost clients because they felt like I should have talked to a coach or spoke on their behalf or something. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to call a coach and ask him to do something or tell him something, because the minute that falls true, now I done lost my credibility for the kid that does need it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
the other
So,
part.
yeah, that's the other side of it. And it's like, you know, it's like, I've had a parent come to me and say, well, I've heard you help who you want to help. And I'm like,
it's who you
I ain't never not helped a kid that didn't deserve help. So whoever gave you that is probably somebody
unstable.
They probably didn't have no offers. Like, I can't,
upset.
like that, like a kid with 20 offers, he's probably talented, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think you mistakenly get 20 offers, just like you don't mistakenly get one offer.
Right.
You know, like there's a level of talent that's involved in it. There's a level of behavior and education and all of these things that come together that I don't have no control over. And then the other thing is as a trainer out there, like word to any trainers out there that's young, don't attach yourself to a kid, because when the kid fails, you fail.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You give that kid all the guidance in the world and give him the foundation to be successful, but he has to apply it and he has to be able to take it and do something with it himself. You can't take him by the hand and walk him through the recruiting process.
Right.
That's not what happens. They got to be able to do this shit. They got to work out. They got to show up at the gym. They got to do their schoolwork. How many kids? The first thing that I ask kids when they come in is, man, how's your grades?
Right.
Good. You getting recruited? I got 2 offers. You registered with Clearinghouse? What's clear?
Some of them don't even
Chad
know
Alexander,
about that.
the running back
from Landry.
Landry.
Yeah.
He came in here. He rushed for 300 yards against Curtis, and Gritty was training here. And I'm like, man, what's up with this Chad kid? And he's like, well, coach, he might not be able to go to college. I'm like, why not? And he's like, well, he don't really even talk. And I'm like, what? He's like, he don't talk. I said, man, get him to come do a session. Mm-hmm. So he's like, all right, cool. So he comes over, he does a session. I talk to him. He's like, he had like just enough GPA to play. He had a 12 on the ACT. And I was like, what you going to do? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, nah, we're going to figure this out.
He didn't see himself going.
Yeah, he didn't even think it was a possibility for him because of the environment that might have been created for him. So, yeah, so when we got him a tutor and we got him, we started taking him with us on our little trips and stuff like that. And he ended up with a New Mexico offer or something like that. And the trip part, dude, he made a dean's list.
Yeah.
He's on all, dude, he's about to graduate in May with a communications degree.
Mm-hmm.
The kid who couldn't talk.
Right.
And listen, we saw it firsthand, of course, because, they peers, they be hard on each other. So, we saw it all, like just being in a van and they were talking, Chad would be like, he had that problem.
He couldn't get it out.
No.
So
Well, he's funny in his own way, though.
Yeah.
Chad did say something.
Chad,
I mean, wasn't even trying to be funny. He was just,
Yeah.
he's just a funny kid. We had him for a while with the Bootleggers.
Definitely.
And I remember he was skeptical. I recruited him to come over from another program. And I could sense he didn't have a ton of confidence in himself, really.
Yeah.
Because he kept questioning me as the event was approaching. Like, are you really going to play me? Like, do you really have an idea?
He went through a little period where he was second guessing himself because what was happening is he had some people around him that was telling him he wasn't going to make it.
If you remember,
and I was going to mess him over, and I was trying. Dude, I get nothing for Chad graduating other than some. Me and the kid have a great relationship.
And that personal reward.
Yeah, right. But that's what I'm saying. Like New Mexico, I don't have a New Mexico T-shirt. Like I don't have nothing. My reward is exactly what you just said, to know that kid went and now he don't have to ever be in a situation that he was in before because he empowered himself through education.
If you remember, he was a part of the circle that we had when he actually came
that 19 class, huh?
He was like, Coach, would you? Like Coach Jimmy just called him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, man. He was
you
like,
better go.
Well, Coach, I don't have because he was in that situation. He was dependent on everyone, right?
Yeah.
Coach, I don't have a ride and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, man, look, listen, we going to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to pick you up? Whatever we need to do.
I remember that. Don't have rides. I don't have money.
That gate.
I don't,
Yeah, we will walk through that
Are you
gate.
sure you're going to use me? Am I going to play or am I just,
Because
Dude,
he had him in his ear like, well, that's just a publicity stunt or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was second guessing everything. Right.
And he's one of my favorite stories that kids that ever come through here. Is like, now it's then he got up there, he had a heart murmur. So he had the proper medical treatment and stuff up there to where, he was okay. He had he's in ICU for like 3 days or something.
And this is something, had he been in the public arena, not in school, he might not have learned in time.
Yeah.
Right.
Might not have got the
no, he
proper
would still
treatment.
be stuttering and all.
Right.
Yeah. Now he's got a speech degree. Communicate. It's insane. It just shows you it's God, right? Like, you want to hear a joke?
Tell him what your plans are.
Mm-hmm.
And Chad had no plans, but he didn't know what clearinghouse was. He didn't know nothing. And then what we did was we had got him tested to where he could take the ACT in pieces.
Yeah, because
with no time limit.
Right.
Because that was the other thing. They put him in a room and he was taking makeup Like it was like it was a plan of attack that was put in place. But again, Chad had to do it, and he did it, and he's gonna be rewarded because of it.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, the funniest shit ever, bro, was walking into Landry Walker, right? Him, and going and see the counselor, right, and saying, "What do this kid need to be able to go to the college?" And they looking like, "Who are you?
Yeah.
Like, who is this? Who is this white guy?
Yeah.
Right?
Coming in the Walker.
Who is this white guy coming in the Landry Walker asking about this kid?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's man, God did.
Yeah.
That's all you can say. God did.
So, how do you see like this whole NIL thing?
I love the idea. I hate the current structure, right? I do think kids should be able to. I mean, this is America. How can you tell an 18-year-old he can't
Not to
earn a
make
living?
money. Yeah.
I mean, in a capitalist
Well, now it's
society and so on.
15-year-olds technically.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of states, Louisiana's one of them, California, a lot of these states now, these kids can get paid in high school, and I'm totally okay with that. I just don't like the fact that there's very little, if any, structure. They said initially coaches can't discuss this with players and set up an NIL agreement directly
Through the coach.
through a coach for recruitment purposes.
Mm-hmm.
That's out of the window now.
Yeah,
I mean, are y'all enforcing that, or has that rule been retracted altogether?
Yeah,
Because
seatbelt law.
yeah, I mean, it's just it's insane. So it is kind of the wild, wild west right now, and I think in time they will put some stipulations in. But the NCAA is really handcuffed here. The courts are what pushed this through. The court says you can no longer do
They
this.
probably don't have the manpower to enforce anything. Huh?
Yeah, they don't have the manpower to enforce it, nor can they. If they limit and restrict anyone's ability to earn, they're going to be challenged in court and lose. The courts were very clear. You cannot prohibit athletes, you know, whether you call them amateur or not, you can't prohibit them from earning income, and you can't put caps on it. They were very clear in their decisions that led to all of this. So I don't think they can ever really put this cat back in the bag. Everything they've explored, they've been told by lawyers, like, yeah, y'all can enforce that rule, but as soon as it gets challenged in court, we're going to lose again. And they just spent millions and millions and millions of dollars fighting this losing battle. They don't want to go back in those courts. Yeah. You know, and to think it all started from Ed O'Bannon, the UCLA basketball player that was tired of them
That was
using
30 years ago.
yeah,
Huh?
and that's how long this court battle took.
Yeah.
You know, he's been fighting it, saying, hey, you used my likeness on the
Somebody
cover
else,
of one
too.
of your games.
Ed O'Bannon and somebody.
Yeah, there were a few others, but I think Ed O'Bannon was the one that
He was the
really led
main
that
one.
charge.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, in time, they just basically gave up. They had no more fight. There was nothing else they could stand on. So I don't know if they'll ever be able to change it, honestly. I think it's just going to be a free-for-all. But here's the truth of the matter and what people need to understand. This happened illegally for decades.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so now at least these promises are now in the form of guarantees and
Contractual, yeah.
contracts, so the player's protected. It's above board. It's legal, you know. So, I mean, you're only seeing what we always knew was happening prior,
Right.
you know. And instead of a $75,000 bag of money being delivered on National Signing Day, you know, it'll be a promise and a contract and some protections for the player, you know. So it's really changed nothing than other that it's become visible now, you know. So
Yeah, it's I put, you know, I'm not going to just give nobody no money. So I've kind of put my own thing together, and I have a bunch of kids on them right now, like Barron Sorrell at Texas and all of that, and Donald, and I got a few kids where we built a do-it-yourself website where it's basically an affiliate program. So these kids have customized links. They post on their story. They become our marketing, and they put the story out. They put the link out. Anything that's traced back to their link, they make 30% of.
yeah,
So they making sales. So they got to actually do something to make the
receive,
money.
right. You
And
gotta
then
work.
the high school kids that are doing it, they're actually coming in here. And naturally, a big part of my thing is you got to do the training. So
Right.
you know, we training them up and stuff like that, and they getting the links and they trying to promote it. It hasn't really like went over really big. I have a few coaches that are making some good money doing it, But from the NIL side of it, I haven't had too many kids make any kind of decent money with it. But I think it's just a matter of time because Goda becomes a household name. That'll change.
Yeah, you're getting there. You're getting there. I mean, you keep doing the things you're doing, and and you see the interviews now with Jameis Winston and these things, and his praise for you. And I know I've sent you a couple kids recently.
Yeah, I heard the kid played this weekend, huh?
Yeah, played really well.
Yeah, no problem.
Great. Feels great.
Better recognize.
Hey, I wish
recognize.
I wish I'd have tapped in before I had my back surgery.
Yeah, because you was when you
crooked.
said because you
I was a
trained over
question
Trey
mark.
Palmer.
Yeah,
Trey Palmer was
sent
about
over
to have
Trey
back
Palmer.
surgery.
yeah. He kept having that little pinch, that sciatic nerve.
Yeah,
Was it L4, L5?
we
issue?
cleaned him up. Well, they'll pin it down now like a lumbar issues or something, but it's all compression and it's really a lot to do with the weight room and how these kids are the behavior in the weight room, meaning the hip thrusting and stuff compresses the spine.
I'd like to say mine was from the weight room, but it was,
Yours was sitting too much,
yeah,
probably.
probably. Honestly,
Right,
Sitting
and being on a computer and
driving 60,000 miles a year.
Yep.
I mean,
In the car,
Yeah.
And then it was on your right side or your left side?
left side.
Left side.
It became permanent. That shooting pain that you
Yeah.
get, there's so much scar tissue in there that shooting pain just stayed.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, it's been like an hour now. Is this thing gonna go away? Didn't go away for 2 months.
It's something to do with the way you sit, because everybody pokes their right foot out. That's a whole nother podcast. But no, and I think the NIL too. One of the things that me and Donald used to talk about with the whole thing is it may make the NFL a little bit better because somebody that's going to be responsible in high school and college and all the way up to the pro level, some of the bad behavior might get weeded out of there through the NIL because now they're going to have the money to go make mistakes.
See, I never thought about it like that. Yeah.
we talked about
We
that.
we was like, that was why they did it at one point.
Yeah.
Like we figured,
you have the ones who really that's their dream, that's their passion, right? To see that NFL logo on them, but then you have the ones who per se just chasing the bag.
Yeah.
So if they,
one a Maserati.
Yeah. So like if they get to the bag before they get to the league, then their true personality comes out before, because again, you have a certain character, you have a certain line that you have to walk on those, because those conversations trickle all the way down. Okay, what's this about this kid? What's this? How was his first pamper change? Whatever, they go into depth with it. But for the kid that's able to get that NIL and they get a nice lump sum of money, then if that's what they were chasing, then that's going to show.
Yeah. No, and you learn, I guess, financial literacy through it as well, right?
Yeah.
So
You better.
Well, they say that.
We wanna.
They say the average NFL career is 3 years.
It was
3, 4 years.
3. Yeah,
3-4 years.
might
So,
be
I mean,
less now.
Yeah, how many of
That's
those?
just strictly off of how long they last in the league. That's not even making mistakes.
And like you say,
Right.
financial literacy is a big play in it, right? Because even the kids that's getting those NILs, a lot of them are not being told that you're going to have to pay taxes on that.
Man, I had one of those conversations.
Yes,
with
a
kid.
lot of them
Yeah,
that don't
'cause I
know
W-9
that.
all
So
my
for them,
guys.
so for them
1099.
NILs, right? So then you get this kid who get this big lump sum of money, right? And now they listening to whoever. Okay, now they going to get this and this and this and this, and now they done spent the whole wop, right? And then at the end of the year, I was like, okay, boom, now you have to pay taxes on that. And
They need to
didn't do
take it
that.
out immediately
Yeah.
if they're going to protect them kids. They need to take that
That
money.
should be automatic,
right?
right? That's
It
a step
should be like a
towards-
paycheck.
That's a step towards, okay, so for the NIL, okay, look, listen, if this is the money, then, like, listen, we're going to take this out and set it on the side because a lot of them kids
Do
don't know
students
that.
pay taxes?
On that kind
On
of
that,
money, they
on
do.
that, on the NIL
Yeah.
stuff they do.
Yeah.
Is that's something I never thought about. Do they not only pay taxes, but is it a gift tax or is it how does that go down? Is it a salary?
It's in the form of salaries.
That's
That's,
what
it
how
is.
it's taxed, just like income.
Yeah.
And
So they
you
gonna
gotta
lose
name-
a third of
like,
it.
so like he just
Yeah,
said.
because they don't have children to claim.
Yeah, like
they
he
don't,
said, like he said,
Well,
name, image, and
maybe
likeness,
not.
right? This your name, your image, and your likeness. You can't
You're being
you can't
paid for
stop a kid from being paid, right?
Right.
This is what they're being paid for. So just like he said in the conversation of being an American kid, right? Taxes is a part of that.
Yeah. Big part.
So they get this money and then they just like, okay, boom, boom, boom. They hit whatever they hit and they blow it all. And then when it's time to when they come back to him, like then they like, damn, well, we didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean now it's like looks like I got so in 26 Jakeem Stewart's in here, Jabari Max in here, Jackson Fields is in here. Like I got a great freshman class, 26 class right now. Then 27 I got Nigel Marshall, so I got the number 1 D-tack on the like these kids are all up there, like they potential millionaires in 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's like now the conversations that we're having is like, if you forgetting your shoes, if you forgetting to do a homework assignment, what the fuck are you gonna do with $1 million in your pocket? What you gonna forget then when the things that you're working towards don't seem as important?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I would almost like, knowing what I know now, like I would have been scared for me with $1 million at 18 years old. I'd be dead, like probably.
I had a good chunk of money at 20. I was broke at 22.
Yeah, it don't take long.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I made every mistake possible. I drove a BMW. You know, I
You lived in the moment.
lived in the moment, lived on the beach.
Right.
You know, I had gold jewelry and shit. But by the time I was 22, I had a car that I could barely afford the oil change for.
Yeah,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm selling off jewelry one piece at a time.
yeah. To
You
get
know?
by, not to eat.
And I was like, shit, I got to go sell shoes.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So,
Yep. Yeah. You'll see. I did it too. I made a lot of mistakes young.
We all did.
I think we all did. And
Yeah,
that's
we all did.
that's one of the things that's always brought us together.
Yeah,
I think
we
we
all
all
did.
knew that, you know, we
Don't-
weren't straight arrows for a
Yeah.
lot of our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
You know, and we overcame, and so we can kind of, and all our paths were different, and the stories are probably different, but we all made
A lot of
major
the same
mistakes.
behavior.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you know.
It's usually the behavior that is the problem. It's never the like some people, like it might be gambling, and some people it's you know, yours might have been like, it's like a clout, like you want to look good and feel good, or you using to look good to feel good because something else is going on. And that's what my problem was, is I was trying to always use drugs to mask a lot of the problems that I had, and they were still there.
My issue was I was grown too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was grown too
Yeah.
early. It
Well,
was-
and exactly what we're
grown,
talking
but
about.
I
You
was
found your $1
men-
million
yeah.
another way.
Yeah, I was mentally blocked because
Yeah.
I was so, you know that saying, you know, well, if you want to be the boss, well, you go, okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, right? And then trying to hand that down to mine, I felt like I gave it to him a little too early because, like, in this same setting we set up here, and David Johnson literally said, you know, there was a lot of coaches that didn't want to deal with Duck because they didn't want to deal with Duck Dad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I told you that one day.
Yeah, you know.
I
But
said, as much as you're an asset in that young man's structure, you're becoming a liability in his recruitment. I remember that conversation. I probably wasn't that direct. I was probably tiptoeing around you at that time because, you know.
yeah.
And but yeah, and that's what I've had to tell a few parents that of late over the last couple of years. Like, you're a detriment to your child's recruitment right now. You need to back off and let it develop naturally. You know,
Yeah.
schools are scared to death of you.
You know,
I never heard that about you, by the way. No
Good.
coach ever told me, I don't know about his dad. You know,
Yeah.
I've had some of those conversations.
shit, I saw that shit firsthand.
Bro. I remember when
I'm like, dude, you got to get off the cliff, bro.
I remember when Ryan would like make a sub on defense with the Bootleggers or something, and Duck would come out and shit. I'd walk over to Ryan and be like, how long is he gonna be out, bro? Like, I don't want to deal with pops at the end. I'm just giving him a series or two off.
But
Let
you
that
know
kid
what?
play.
It's on every level.
It
I
is.
remember at SMU one day after the first game, one of the staff walking up and saying, man, you know, well, he's going to. I'm like, whoa, bro. Slow down, dog. We don't need to hear that shit. You ain't got to explain to us.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We not them people. Like, fuck, when it's his time, it'll be his time.
Right.
And they was like almost like they felt like they owed us an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, is that where we at with college football now? Is it in that like it's the park now?
they're
It's
so
like
used to
turning into
parents.
park ball.
Yeah.
They're so used to parents being like that they just are starting to assume most are.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're at now.
See, when you got to pacify half the time and you can't do your job no more,
That's a problem.
that's a problem.
That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're in a portal right now, and I'm not that guy, coaches. He's a
No,
grown
at
man.
all. At
He's a
all.
grown man now, right? It's
Yeah.
all on him, right?
Great young man too.
Yeah. You know, I guess like kind of in closing or whatever, kind of talk. Well, let's say this. Like, first of all, kid calls you up and he's like, "Hey, Coach Jimmy." I don't even know what the kids call you, but
Himmy
Himmy D.
Smith. Himmy D.
they what you know they what advice are you giving that kid? Like, he wants to know, hey man, I just got my first offer, or I haven't got my first offer. That advice may be different, but
It is.
what do you tell that kid? Like, what do you when they say, hey man, I need to know what's the best thing I could do?
Yeah, I tell them eliminate frustration, right? So this is going to be a frustrating process. Whether you have 40 offers or 0, it's going to become frustrating, right? You have to eliminate that because that is the biggest distraction.
I saw
That'll
Jamal
kill your motivation. It'll kill your spirit, your confidence, and your body language. It shows. When you're frustrated, most people show it.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to hide. You can hide pain better than you can hide frustration. You know what I mean? So it always starts there, you know, especially if this is the beginning of a process, or if it's the kid that says, man, I see everybody around me getting offers and I just can't get any attention. So I tell them, well, stop thinking like that. Quit worrying about what they're doing. You know, what's your activity? What are you doing? Are you reaching out to coaches? Right. Are you doing that? Is your highlight made on Huddle? Let me see your highlight. Why do you have these plays in the front of your Huddle? You only have the attention span of a minute or two from these coaches at most.
If that,
Put your best plays in the front, right? And we just start structuring a
I
foundation.
tell them like 10 good plays and that's it.
Yeah, that's really all you need. I mean, honestly, I could see it in 3 to 8 plays.
Yeah.
That's all I need. Right. You know what I mean? So, and that's all they need. So, it's really the foundational build where you're just giving them the little pieces and you try to develop an understanding and hope that they take that in. And the more that they retain and the more they want to know, the more I'll feed them. You know, and when I see that they really are trying to form themselves in a way to be successful in this recruiting game, then I'll go head over heels on their behalf.
So you basically gauge it off of the things that they retain. So when they originally come, if they retain and put into play what you're telling them, then
I'll put more.
Right.
Because what I've noticed is the kid that doesn't is the kid that's going to count the offers.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like I will match or exceed your effort, but I've got to see your effort. I'm not going to work harder on this than you.
Right.
You're asking me for advice, but really all you want me to do is help you. You're not really looking
well,
for
what you
it.
got, what you got, yeah, what you got is you got a kid, you got 2 different kids. You got a kid that walks in there and he's going to ask you because he's looking for guidance. And then you got a kid that's going to come in there and ask you, so you think he's looking for guidance and you think that he's trying his hardest. So you think, but he already got his mind made up on how he's going to handle everything. Like in real life, not kids, we call that an asshole. Like he already got his mind made up on what he's going to do. He's asking you a question, but he ain't going to listen to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you ask for advice, take that advice. If you don't want that, if you don't want it, you know, then leave it away. But if somebody comes to you on a recruiting thing and you've been doing it for 10, 12 years or whatever, they should probably listen to what you got to say. And then like you said, because if they do, and I see them making those moves, then, you know, and that kid may more. Yeah, that kid may come back too. He may be like, look, coach, hey, man, it's been 2 months. I put the time in. I did this. I changed my Huddle. I did that, blah, 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 blah. What is it? Like, sometimes you got to – I tell kids sometimes maybe you're not good enough. And it's not – that's tough.
It is.
But they need to be honest because they could spend 4 years trying to do something that, hey, I don't give a fuck how you spend it, dude. I could go out there in the gym and I could try all I want. I'm not dunking. I'm never going to dunk a basketball.
No? At 4'14"?
No, dude, it's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I could spend my life trying that, or I could go figure out another way to be a part of that.
Right.
You know, we've had a couple of kids come through here that was like, hey, bro, you super smart. You got a high ACT. Maybe you should get into the sports agency side, or maybe you should get into the management side, or maybe you should do this, or maybe you could become an athletic trainer or a medical person.
Be around the field.
Yeah, and
right?
you could still be in that
right?
world, but football as the player
brain.
may not be for you.
Right.
And sometimes I think that kids need to hear that stuff.
That's such a hard balance, though, right? Because you don't want to take the hope away from them.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to snatch that from them, but you also want them to live in reality. Because if you live in reality, you're going to limit your frustration, your disappointment. And those are the things that derail you in life, right? So it's this balancing act, you know, and that's where I really try to get a feel for the individual. You know, is that confidence real or is that false bravado? If I could tell you really believe in yourself, then I can be more upfront with you.
Right.
You know, so you ask the questions early, and a lot of these kids don't realize why I'm asking some of these questions. I'm trying to build a profile on this kid so I know how to handle him individually.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a very interesting thing, you know, and I brought you a gift, Gary.
Oh, yeah.
Might help you dunk these basketballs, okay? Now, I'll let you know, you're the only adult in Louisiana that's going to have these, okay?
Okay.
These are exclusive, only for bootleggers, but you're a bootlegger. And I know you don't wear cleats anymore.
Right.
These are our new cleats.
I appreciate
Now,
that.
you told me 10 and a half, but I know I'm a foot guy. You're actually a 10, but probably an E in width.
I'm a little wide.
Yeah. So this is a wider cleat. So this is a 10. It's going to fit you really well.
That's important. Wide toe box cleats.
Yeah. And if you
gonna
don't
have
want
to sign
those,
it.
give them to a kid. Oh, yeah, I got to sign it?
You're going to have to.
I'm going to reduce the value of these cleats.
That's all right.
So, and I got a pair for Duck, too.
That's what's up.
I got
Yeah,
a pair
man.
for Duck, too.
I
That's what's
appreciate
up.
that, dog. That's nice. So this is what y'all wearing. See, that's the other thing. When they don't get to play for the bootleggers, they don't get the gear, and they're like, fuck the bootleggers.
Yeah. Well, see, yeah. You know,
You can't win, dude. If
can't.
it's something, they going to find a reason for you not to win. You know what I'm saying?
I make sure the kids, they all know they get it, but the ones that ask before they decide if they're playing with us, that's a red flag for me.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, I can get my hands on anything for a kid, you know, and send any kid I want packages anywhere in the country. My job allows me to do that, but I don't. Because if you're playing here just for this gear, then you're not going to give us what
For
we
the
need
role.
on that
Yeah,
field,
yeah,
you know? So,
That happens a lot too,
A
man. You
lot.
see it at some of the schools. Listen, my daughter and them, she starts left field for Curtis. They done won 2 state championships in softball her freshman and sophomore year. She played left field both years. This is the junior year. You got a group of some younger kids that's in there, and they lost to Mount Carmel, I think, for the first time in 4 years. And I'm like, it's kind of like the little trend that Marquise and them went through.
Yeah.
And you got a few kids in there that understand that tradition over there of winning and excellence and all of this stuff. And then you got some kids that come in there and they think, shit, I'm at Curtis. I'm going to win a state championship.
gonna win.
And we got Nike and we got this and we got that. And guess what? They miss those 4-hour practices, and they miss getting home at 9 o'clock every night and stuff. They don't see that part. Plus, you got homework. Then you got to wake up and do it again in
that
the morning.
Saturday morning film session after the game ended at 11 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
All the extra stuff
Yeah.
y'all do over there.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
and they think because you with something that, and listen, that 7-on-7 world's competitive.
It's very competitive, and it's becoming more and more competitive,
It's
especially
a
now
tough
that,
space, yeah.
especially more NFL guys getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of teams, and of course they recruit high level players,
Yeah,
and those players
with
play
high level
hard for them,
gear.
with high level gear.
Yeah,
But you're going to play for those guys.
yeah,
If you're on the sideline and you're on a team that's run by Tyreek Hill, you're going to show up.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's the last person you want. They say, bro, give him my shit and get out of
Yeah,
here. Because that's
yeah.
what he's going to say.
yeah,
So.
don't run, I'll catch you.
Yeah,
You know?
right. You can't get away from Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, so you see a lot of those guys, and I love seeing it, honestly. It adds some validity to the whole sport. When you
it
have
shows
It's
the
good to
end.
see them
It
guys
shows
back
the- yeah,
back down
yeah.
there, though.
Give
I
him
wish
back.
one of them would
Working
give to
back.
us.
Yeah,
They think we have it like that, you know. So and I've never asked, but damn,
yeah.
you know, I have some of our former players that are sponsoring other programs,
Mm.
you know, and they tell me they love me, and you know, and they're so,
And they probably
and they're
do. But
thankful
you,
for
you gotta
everything,
look
but
at
I'm
it like
shit,
when you
yes,
look at when you
show
look
it.
at when I look at like the bootleggers or whatever, it's stood the test of time. It's been here for a long time, and you got a couple other people out there that's got programs that's been around like the Blaze and certain teams and stuff like that. And I know Matthew Joseph and them.
I don't
and-
know that team you speak of.
Yeah, of course not. But what I'm saying is people look at them as, well, they there all the time. You take them for granted.
Yeah,
And I think what it is, and I think like we have athletes that come through here, and sometimes I'm sitting there going, and we had the conversation the other day, and I'm like, man, they don't ever get back. They don't do nothing. They don't. And then I'm like, probably because we're so much of the norm that it's hard for them to wrap their head around, man, what if he wasn't there? What if I wouldn't have had a Coach Gary or called Bootlegger or Coach Jimmy? You know what I'm saying? What if I wouldn't? What if that guy wouldn't have been there? I better make sure that he has everything he needs because we were so consistent and we were so reliable and we was always there. So I guess, and maybe that's just me trying to find acceptance in the whole situation. But
I find that again that everything falls back to like maturity, right?
Yeah.
It falls back to maturity.
It does.
Because even though they say, Coach Jimmy, we love you, I love you, right? All of that. A lot of these kids be like those guys who are able to give back, right? They're still finding themselves and being youngsters who've been blessed to receive a certain amount of finances, right? And then they just trying to keep everything else going.
Bonus.
Yeah, however that part go, right? And I contribute that part to just maturing, right?
Yeah.
And then being able to, because everything moves so fast for them, right? That like we still got to keep in mind that these are young 22 to 25, millionaires. And of course, it just, I mean, I don't know, I say, like I said, it's just, when they mature, or when they stop moving, when life stop moving so fast and it become normal for them, then maybe they're able to be like, okay, well, damn.
So I got to wait on dudes to retire?
I'm not gonna say that. Hopefully they don't mature that late. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's a maturity factor,
And-
right?
and listen,
because you
we don't
want
do-
to come and give back to the community, right? That because it's a couple of more kids that's like you, and now you were blessed to be put in a situation, and that's you should give back. You should want to give back, right? Because it's a kid that's you that might not have what you had. But again, and like I said, that comes with maturity.
Right.
Yeah.
But then we all know maturity it take time for certain people, longer for some more.
Look at I'm
longer than
48.
others, right?
Yeah.
I'm still doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be
I'm not gonna
relevant.
say that.
Listen, it wouldn't be
I wasn't
relevant.
an
It
adult
would,
till 30, dude.
it wouldn't be
I
relevant.
wasn't
Well,
an
I
adult
didn't
till
get off of
30.
drugs till I was 30 years old.
Right.
So, well, no, older than that. I was 36 or something. But and then the last thing would be the parent that comes to you and says, well, I guess those answers might be the same, huh?
Yeah. Quite often.
Make sure your kids' social media is together. Make sure that their huddles together.
Pretty much. And be a part of the celebrations. Other than that, stay out of the way as much as possible.
Yeah,
Stay on top
You're
of it.
not being recruited.
Yeah,
your
don't
son
inject
is.
yourself
Yeah.
into these
It's
things,
called. It's
you know?
tough.
It's tough. And, I mean, it's all. If I had a son that was a recruit, I don't know how I'd be either. As much as I know, as many times I've done this, I'd probably cross those lines quite a bit, too. Just the way I am with my children.
You're
I
a
would.
father,
Well,
man.
Yeah.
listen,
You're a father and a dad who didn't have a father and a dad.
I would tell.
You
This
know?
is what I
Yeah.
would do.
Like you're a father and a dad that didn't have that. Like and
Right.
I again, now that I'm
Is that why we go overboard?
sometimes
Oh yeah, that's why they spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Donald spoiled.
Trying to go above
Yeah,
and
my
beyond.
kids are
because-
spoiled.
Yeah. Well
Yeah.
listen, and
My
then
daughter's graduating LSU. She's on a third call.
then you understand
That's
too.
your fault.
I know that's what
That's
I'm
your
saying.
fault.
But you understand too, like we had those conversations, right? So like when you come up in a fatherless environment, right? Then it's like, okay, damn, that didn't feel good. So then you make these promises, right? Like if God ever allow me, and then you have to hold true to those promises. Like I'll tell anybody, man, at the end of the day, I know it was God, right? But it was my kid that saved me.
Right.
Right? That was the determining factor.
In
in,
the
okay,
human element.
I have to stop doing what I'm doing that I felt like I needed to survive. So
Right.
then you get in it, man. I know who you are. I know who you are with your sons. So yes, if baby boy become this superhero, right?
Hey,
then
he
you-
might. The baby
ain't no-
might.
ain't
The
no
6-year-old, he's got a little something to him.
Okay, so and
got a
when
little
that
something to
happened,
him.
right?
And so
and
now
when
I'm
that
helping him
happened,
tap into that, you know?
Right. Of course, you his father. You his dad.
That kid took my spot in my bed last night.
It ain't shit you
I
gonna
slept
do
my
about
ass
it.
on the couch. Hell no. I get a text from the wife in bed like, hey, look, Sonny took your spot. Sorry, not sorry. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm sleeping on the couch.
Right.
Dude,
I could have went and
I
picked
would-
his
I would-
45-pound ass up and moved him, but I didn't
How
want
old
to.
is
I
he?
was like,
He all
he's
right.
6.
45 pounds. I don't know what little Gary.
48 now, I think. 48.
Right. Yeah, man. Hell yeah, you're gonna do it because you his father.
Yeah.
You're his dad, right?
Yeah.
And you try to change that history of your situation when you was.
But
6
this
years
is the
old,
thing,
right?
though, and this is what I'll say. One thing about my kids is they know how hard I work.
Right.
They don't see me take a day off. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know I've missed family functions and vacations because of work. So if anything that I give to them is that the things that we do have, it comes with a price tag.
Yeah.
They might not understand the value of money right now, but they'll know you got to do something to get it.
Yeah.
You know? But if Lil Gary got his first offer tomorrow, he's going to be programmed to call his parent. He ain't calling me. Because I might go straight to Twitter with it.
Well, fortunately, and I was able to go through those situations to where I know better now, right?
Right.
Because again, like I said, being young, I always was an alpha male, right? And I never meant to come across so strong, but that's just who I was, right? I was in a world where if you
Because you were a 15-year-old adult, you had to be
if
that.
you was weak, you was just beat from the
Right,
gate,
right.
right? Like when you use the terminology of the puppies, right? I couldn't be the run of the litter. Even when I was the run of the litter, my mentality was never to be the run of the litter. Because the run of the litter eat last. You know, now sometimes, and he has a 50% chance of even surviving because first of all, he's malnourished, right? And then he's eating the leftovers of, oh, no way. So even, you know, and listen, not just in this sports
Whatever
world.
they don't want.
Listen, not just in the sports world, right? And not just going through the recruiting process. I bumped heads a lot with the school. Because they, you know, and it wasn't meant like I wasn't intentionally just being, like, but that's just how it came across, right? And, you know, like, look, listen here, we here for school. We're not here for ball. So then I was able to transition into the 40 now 4, right? That was the decision. When we made a decision on the school, it was the 40-year plan. Okay, who's going to help you in the long term when you have family, right? But that I bumped heads a lot with the school with the same way, and it wasn't intended, but it just like
You was
I
doing your
just
best.
always was alpha, right? But this is the only way I knew how.
Well, Jimmy, tell them where to find you on social media.
Yeah, I actually, you find me on Twitter at Jimmy Detail, at Hemi D Smith. Jimmy Hemi D Smith. I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to relate to these younger
Do you have an Instagram?
I do. My Instagram got shut down, but we have the Bootleggers Instagram that we rebuilt recently. I'm not a huge social media guy, which is odd being in
Well, you get
media,
tagged a lot.
right? I get tagged a lot and so on. And I'm more of a retweeter of other people I support.
Right.
I used to put a lot of opinions out there and so on. I don't like people enough, man. I gotta be honest. I don't like people enough. I hate comment sections. So like at this point, probably not that active on social media.
Yeah.
Just stay away, man. Stay
All
away.
right. Well, I appreciate you coming.
Appreciate you
know,
having me, man.
I know it's a little ride for you, you know, and I appreciate you coming in and enlightening us and sharing your wealth of knowledge and your experience in the game. And, you know, Donald, I appreciate you as always, and you stuck with me anyway. So, but this is Coach Gary, Recoded the podcast, Recoded with Gary Scheffler, and we'll see you next time.